the way that I thought that I would go about this is to start with the process that I've now been able to establish at my congregation, which is a conservative congregation. I know some of you are not either at a congregation, you may be tutoring the name Mitzvah preparation, or you may be doing independent. And I'm just going to share what I have been going through and where it has now culminated, and let you know that this is something that I'm extremely passionate about, because I was not a bar bat mitzvah student when I was a child. So I don't know what it feels like to be that young and to have that pressure. And when I was prepared as a younger, adult in my late 20s, when my first child was like 6 months old and I became bat mitzvah, I wasn't taught trope. And then I found out years later that I was doing it all wrong. And I had to unlearn and relearn. And so I also have not been diagnosed with the learning challenges that I have, but I live with myself. So I know I have learning challenges. And it's only over the last 15 years that I've come to understand, by teaching others, that I have these learning challenges. And so some of the tricks that I've developed and some of the self-speak that I've had to develop, I share with my students, because it comes from a place of, where I was in a lot of pain. You live and you learn. So I used to start out where I was asking students to practice for 45 minutes. That's ridiculous. I don't do that anymore. So what happens now, I am in a congregation where this past year I'm coming to the end of working with 35 B'nai Mitzvah, and just me. No assistant tutor or anything. And the year before I had 32. And, you have to be very organized, etc. I have worked in very small congregations with, maybe 5 students for the year. I've worked in mega congregations in New York City, where I was one of 15 tutors. Each tutor was a cantor or a cantorial student. So very high level of the people who were working. And I learned a lot everywhere I've worked. But now I'm the cantor. So now I get to advocate for my students. And I get to say what I think, based on my experience, is the best thing for the community. But I'm coming in after a cantor who had been Cantor Jack Cortman of blessed memory, with the congregation for 30 years. So I am working with an unusual community also, because there's a lot of in-place marriages. Not, you don't recognize who the parents are because everybody has a different last name, where I've worked in those communities too. And also I'm working with people who they themselves were bar mitzvah by the cantor. And so they come in and they say to their child in front of me, oh, it's just going to be this. The cantor's going to give you a sound file and you're just going to memorize. And then I have to say, that's not how I work. So I'm changing the culture, and that's not always welcome. I have the support of my rabbi, Baruch Hashem. So one of the things that I've done I started as the B'nai Mitzvah tutor before I was hired as the cantor 3 years ago. And one of the things that I did once I became the cantor 2 years ago was, there's a meeting with the 5th grade families at which I am supposed to present my thoughts and my, what the system is going to be like, what the process is going to be like when they become into B'nai Mitzvah prep mode. So I want to share with you it was a letter to the board when I do my report each month. This was my report to the board. And at the same time, it was also the basis of my conversation with the 5th grade families. It was also me sending off a missive to the parents and the grandparents, because again, this is in some instances, 3 generations at my congregation. And the pressure on the children is incredible. And so this was my missive, with all due respect, saying it's going to be done a little differently now. So just one part of it. So imagine you're the 5th grade, parents, and you're sitting over brunch after morning services on Sunday, and it's my turn to tell you what's going on, and this is what I'm saying, some of it. As the cantor, I'm blessed to work with each student individually, and I'm able to customize the approach to preparation. Children and adults have their own strengths and challenges. Some parents have watched as their child takes on the daunting task of learning how to read Hebrew more comfortably, learning the cantillation markings and melodies for Torah trope, learning the blessings for an honor at the Torah, learning the blessings before the chanting of the Haftarah, and how to chant a Haftarah, and the blessings after the Haftarah. Many parents share stories of memorizing a Torah reading or a Haftarah without any understanding of the structure or process, and feeling completely incapable of helping their child in his or her learning process today. Other parents welcome this time as an opportunity for they themselves to learn along with their child, literally or figuratively. They've been afraid to come to the Torah for an honor because reciting the blessings is way outside of their comfort zone. I certainly hope that everyone in the congregation knows by now that I teach a class on how to read Hebrew in the Siddur and how to learn Torah. So, you're all invited. Comfort comes with education and increased use of the new skill set. For our children, going through the B'nai Mitzvah preparation process is a long project. It lasts almost a year, and it gives many of our children a taste of what it means to be responsible for something very different than a research paper or a concert recital or a role in a team sport or in a play. It's an opportunity to be respectful of our heritage, of the blessings of the blessings of education, respectful towards their parents, respectful to their teachers, respectful to the congregation, respectful to God and to Torah, and yes, respectful to themselves. Becoming bar or bat mitzvah is about learning what it means to be a Jew, learning about mitzvot, and learning about personal truth. I'm one teacher among a team of teachers. The head teachers are the parents, often supported in this crucial role by grandparents. What parents say to their children is silenced by what their children witness. The parents' classroom is everywhere, in the house, in the sanctuary, out in the world. There are the religious school teachers as well, the director of education, and of course the rabbi. Some children are suffering silently under tremendous pressure that they bring upon themselves. Others are trying to learn and celebrate their growth and are dealing with pressures coming from their parents and or their grandparents. I'm grateful that our congregants understand that each and every child stepping up to the bima to help in singing Adon Olam or to recite the blessings before and after the reading of the Torah is doing something that can be very uncomfortable. We ask a great deal of our children, often focusing on external, even superficial things. The best way to put yourself in a bar or bat mitzvah's shoes is to embark on a similar project. Many adults will not sign up. I respect those decisions. If you know how to learn Torah and chant a Haftarah already, that's wonderful. Perhaps your learning environment and culture was a bit different than what our children are experiencing. Either way, let us all be supportive and sensitive to our B'nai Mitzvah. So to clarify, I'm not suggesting that there should not be a sense of responsibility and purpose connected to this important Jewish life cycle moment. Just the opposite. I encourage each of my students to bring their best self to this work because it is a statement of who they are. If they need help, how wonderful to learn that it is more than okay to ask for help. If they need to learn discipline in order to focus and practice consistently, how important a life lesson is that? If they need to learn self-care so that they don't burn out and so that they learn to say no to some things in order to determine what they truly value, isn't that a lesson from which we could all benefit? This season helped me in celebrating our beautiful B'nai Mitzvah. In our coming seasons, please consider stepping up and saying, Hineni, I am here as an adult who is also ready to step outside of my comfort zone, to learn, to grow, and to enrich my personal Jewish practice. So that is something that I shared with the 5th grade parents this year, and it was very sobering. And every time I work with a family, I invite, because this is what I've been doing for many years now, I invite the parents to learn how to read Torah. Some of them take me up on it. And the child becomes the tutor for their parents. It becomes a very bonding experience and humbling for the parents. The child feels so valued that their parents are willing to put themselves out of their comfort zone to do this. And the parents come away in awe of their children who are doing so much more than the parents themselves. It's a multi-spoked, wheel, and the message has to go to all different parties. So I share this message with the congregation in my notes, some notes from the cantor, when we do our newsletter thing. I present it at the 5th grade meeting. I present it as my part of my report to the board. Now I want to tell you about the process, because now these 5th grade parents eventually become,
Okay, yeah, so I just want to have the opportunity. So you said you presented to, as part of your board report, as part of your newsletter, to the 5th grade parents. So when you are in the meeting with the 5th grade parents, with this beautiful expression and passion that you just read this letter, I'm in awe of you. Do you read this letter to them out loud, or do they just receive this physically in their email box or in their letter?
No, I don't even read this. This is me reading what I wrote to the board, but I just say it.
Okay, good.
To them, and then they ask questions. Well, how are we supposed to do such and such? Well, I never did that. And then I say, I get it. And that's not a problem.
Right.
But
good.
we're in this together.
I want them to see the face and the passion that we just saw from you. But I'm glad that they get to actually hear it, because as you know, we get a lot of information from our religious schools and from our temples and from everything else, constantly being bombarded with emails, with letters, with fundraising. And so it's really important that the personal passion is seen, and I'm really glad. That's what I wanted. I wanted to make sure they heard this in eye to eye with you. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So part of that then led to, because as I say, I'm new here. I'm just finishing my 2nd year as the cantor, and change takes time. In the beginning, there were some people who didn't realize that when I had a student who was remedial, really, really remedial, I just shortened their Haftarah. And because they require at this shul, it's like a whole conservative thing where you're not bar bat mitzvah until you've chanted a 4-page Haftarah, and I just don't buy it. But to change a whole ritual committee to agree, that required, and not everybody agrees, but now I have the red pen and I get to say, and so I heard their concerns that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, that we don't just, sneeze on the Haftarot. But at the same time, they heard my concerns. And I've had students who, teen suicide is not a joke. And this is not, their process that they're going through with me is not going to be something that's going to add to the stress that they're going through. I have children who clearly are in distress in their lives. and parents who don't parent.
Wow.
So it's a very complicated thing. And that's why, not just being the tutor and being the cantor and having some say matters greatly. So
before you continue, and these are really devastating points that you're making, I just want to welcome Arlene up. I think she's okay. Arlene, welcome. I see that you're trying to adjust the phone, and we're delighted to have you. Lois just read us a very passionate letter about her philosophy of teaching kids and teaching adults at the same time. It's wonderful, and hopefully you'll be able to go back and see the beginning of that because it was wonderful. And I'm Robbie Sherwin. I'm just delighted to welcome you. And I'm going to go ahead and mute you, right? And we will continue. Lois is making some points about stress levels of teenagers and how crucial that is in recognizing the ways to teach and things like that. So Arlene, I'm going to mute you, but I wanted to welcome you because we have not met. So, hi.
Hi, welcome. So now let's say, you understand that there's all these different spokes of this wheel. And part of it is also me dealing with the ritual committee. And I say many times, I'm so grateful to the rabbi that I work with for having my back on this. I can say I went through 7 different levels of interview before I got my job. And the very first conversation I had with the rabbi on the phone, I was telling him about this, that this is extremely important to me and not something that I am willing to back off on. And he said, I'm with you. So it takes a village to change, a lot of things. You need more than just you saying it. And so you have to whisper in people's ears, and you have to, really have also a methodological reason. And I also have sociological and psychological and so many ritual reasons behind what I do. So here's the meat of it, okay? You're the family. I finally get you into my office. Here's the process. There's an initial 20-minute meeting with both parents or guardians. Understand that when I say parents, I'm dealing, thank God, with a congregation where the parents are around. I've also worked in congregations where that's not the case, and it's complicated. I get it. So I'm just sharing my stuff with you. The meeting is with, and I specify, I am confirming this 20-minute meeting, because I also have to protect my time, that is taking place on X date from this time to 20-minute later time. The meeting is with both the parents, guardians, the bar bat mitzvah or b'nai mitzvah students, because sometimes it's like, twins or 3. I will not begin tutoring sessions with the child, which is what they want. They want those lessons done because they want the party to be able to happen. I will not start tutoring the child until this initial meeting has taken place. If you can't all get your act together to meet in my office 20 minutes, you're not ready for this process. This is for me to present my way of working with the child and the family. For example, 30-minute sessions followed by, my process is 30-minute sessions followed by an email summary with a homework assignment and progress/challenges. Within 24 hours, that email comes out of my computer. And I also explain at this 20-minute session that there are generally not makeup lessons. You miss a lesson, you miss a lesson. Because we start approximately 1 year out, because we know that there's going to be holidays, vacations, illness, camp, blah, blah. So we're not starting a year out to have a year of weekly lessons. It's not happening. So let's just clarify what's really going to be going on, so everybody hears it at the same time. We're on the same page. I explained that I've constructed the system that I work with, and it's based on 15 minutes of practice 4 times a week, which is not an hour a week. It's 15 minutes 4 times a week. I ask each parent what his or her concerns are and what their vision is, not expectation. what their vision is for the bar bat mitzvah experience. And I let them share some of their history if they want to, because often they want to say, well, when I went through it, I did this and I did that. When his sister went through it, he did this and he did that, so that I can diffuse that in front of the child. Because that's, Sammy is not Johnny. And I ask the child to express, if they are willing to, his or her concerns and his or her vision. I share what I refer to it as a shopping list of the ritual toolbox. And it's items like, Ve'ahavta, Vayomer, Chatzi Kaddish, blah, 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 blah. And I know that for a lot of children, that's I have to learn this, I have to do this, I have to do that. And I don't want them experiencing this list as a have to list. So I refer to it as a shopping list. And I say, that thing you get at Michael's Arts and Crafts store and we put it on the fridge and you check off that you already have eggplant, but you need tomatoes? That's what this is. I already know Ve'ahavta. Awesome, check it off. Kids love to check things off. But I don't know this. Do I have to know this? Do you have to? No. If you want to learn it, you can go over it at some point. So that's like, you could see their shoulders go. And I start with, now it's a whole other session on how you teach, what you teach, and all of that. But I will say that part of this whole thing is the former cantor did not, for the most part, teach trope. And most children did not read from the Torah. Torah is my main throb. So that changed immediately. So I start with the Torah reading, which is usually, not always, but usually this small. Right? Maftir is not usually that big. And if it's this big and my child cannot do that, they're not reading Maftir, and that's cool. They're reading something this small. They learn the trope. They learn it on something this small, in levels like this. By the time I call them laning Legos, because they go together like Legos. And that knowledge is then recycled for when we're studying Haftarah. Now the parents, especially if they're part of the system that already existed, are like, what? I just had to memorize something. You're teaching them something? What? So I've been working with the ritual committee now for over 2 years, and I've been trying to shift the emphasis away from chanting an entire Haftarah. And it's been, I get to say, so for some children, if they can only do 2 verses is not enough that we don't get to do the rest of the Haftarah, and then I do the rest of the Haftarah. But 8 verses is enough of an attempt that I am not going to read the rest of that Haftarah, because that's not okay for that child's mental well-being. Not okay. And I really had to go to the mats on that one. And what I say, and this is part of anybody who wants to challenge me at the shul, that I just don't think that that's where I want to spend my time bucks. My time with them is so precious. I only have these months. They leave my office. They either are going to want to come back and do some more Jewish stuff or not. I want to teach them what we value, which is, do you know how to usher in Shabbat? Do you know how to recite Friday night Kiddush? Can you light the Shabbat candles with a bracha? Do you know how to make motzi? Do you get the idea of what the Amidah is about, even if you can't do a full repetition? Can you recite Shema Ve'ahavta? Can you do Vayomer? Some of the things that when you're in the congregation during a service, do you feel completely lost, or are you going to be a comfortable Jew that will maybe learn more as you age or not, depending on what you choose, but at least will you feel some comfort. And by the way, I also explained that I only have one goal. This is not to ritual, but to everybody in my initial 20-minute meeting with the parents. I have one goal. The kid starts guessing. What do you think my goal is? That I can read Torah perfectly. No, that's a good one, but that's not my goal. That I this, that I that. That's a good guess. My one goal is that you feel comfortable the morning of your bar bat mitzvah. Really comfortable. How do you think you would feel? What would have to happen for you to feel comfortable then? Like, I would need to like know that I really know my Torah reading, right? And I would need to feel like I know what's going on doing my haftarah. That's right. So every single thing that I suggest is going to be with that goal, not some other goal that somebody else might share with you. That's not my goal. What do you think? You think it's a good goal? They like that goal. They like that goal because they're harder on themselves. And they've been hearing from the father at home, you better do as well as so-and-so said, because otherwise, I have them cry on my shoulder. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. My father said. So that father has to be at that 20-minute meeting. Because if they start in that, they're going to deal with me. They're going to hear it ahead of time that does not happen on my watch. Oh, Dad, you want to read Torah? Not okay. This pressure, it's not okay. So unhealthy. So, I explained that everything that I suggest is going to that end, and that we're going to learn as a family unit, and that this would be a great time for parents to learn something that they don't know and to learn alongside or, parallel to their kids. And I also require that a parent be at every lesson. And that's hard for some parents, very hard. Yeah. Because I need them to see that this is not a jack in the box, I'll drop off my child and you make them Jewish process. Often parents have no idea what it takes for the child to learn what they have to learn and how challenging it can be. But their expectations for performance are extremely high. Pressure for this child. But witnessing the weekly process breeds respect for the child and for the process that a lot of them did not go through. And it doesn't always work, and there are times when the child is in charge and the parent isn't really parenting, and it can get tricky, and that's another story. But that's pretty much methodologically, I'm using things that you guys use. I could just say that I'm a little weird about some things because there's color coding and things like that, sound files and all, and I do that. But I'm always asking the child to make choices. And for some children, that's the hardest part of the lesson. Girls who already at this young age are afraid to speak, afraid to express their opinion, because they are, what are girls facing in our society? All over the place. And so I asked them, do you like highlighting? Which color do you want for this, like, laning Lego? Because some people don't like yellow. Some don't like green. I want to know. I want them to know. I want them to know what they like and what they don't like. I want them to feel comfortable to share it with me. So that 1 month before the bar bat mitzvah, we have a relationship that's based on trust and respect. And they can say to me, I'm scared. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. I could do it with you, but I don't know if I can do it in front of other people. And I can say to them, yeah, That is scary. Because I'm not going to say, well, you shouldn't feel scared, like some other people that they say that to will say. But I can say to them because they trust me. That is scary. Yeah, I get scared too. What do you think you've found helps you when you feel like that? I have to practice a lot. I think it's a good idea. So what's your practice schedule this week? Do we need to add like a 10-minute FaceTime just so that I kind of hold your hand virtually? Well, let's set something up while mommy's cooking dinner. You'll open the iPad and we'll do just 10 minutes. It's not a whole lesson. We'll fit 10 minutes in. That's sometimes all they need. But they navigate the process so that they are empowered, not just in their Jewish practice, not just in their Jewish education, but in a large project, in dealing with family stuff. Because all of this is connected. That's it, I'm done. So people want to talk and stuff. I'm done.
I'm processing.
I know it's a lot of stuff, but
Debbie Gelber, since I can't see your face, I'm going to unmute you. Do you have any questions? And you can say, no, I don't.
I'm also processing. I'm really interested in the requiring parents at the lesson because I actually feel like that totally cramps my style. And I would much prefer no parents in the lesson. So I'm kind of rethinking why I think that and what it could add. Because actually, for the first time in almost 20 years, I have a parent who wants to sit in on every lesson. And so this is very timely for me.
It is. And I want to piggyback on that since we're talking about that. In my experience, I have seen that it's a time for the kids to be with a trusted adult without their parents, and that they can learn, and so they don't have their parents judgy sitting above them. And so those are some of the reasons why I've always said that they're welcome, but I ask the kid, I say, how do you feel about having your parents in the lesson with you? And I have private conversations with them about that first. Okay, that's the piggyback. Anybody else have any questions about parents in the...
I want to just answer what you just said.
Okay, go ahead.
I also asked the child eventually. At first, but the parent still has to be there. So if they're not in my room with the child, they're right outside.
Okay.
So that the parent still is hearing that this is not some piece of cake thing that the kid, they also hear how well the child is doing, or that this is the second time that the child showed up not having done the work. And that's a whole other discussion about how does one manage the session when a child is not working or when a child is working, et cetera, et cetera. It's a different discussion.
Sharon, you also raised your hand when we were talking about...
Oh, no, I was just, Lois was raising her hand, so I was pointing to Lois.
Oh, you're pointing.
She's on that side on your screen. But
Okay, great. All right, so the parent gets the opportunity to be outside the room, not like running errands and all the things that our parents do. I call it drop your kid at the circle. You called it Jack in the Box, because there's a circle in front of the synagogue. So drop your kids at the circle is what I call it. Okay, so that gives them the opportunity to listen in if they want to, but they're present and the kid knows they're present as well, but not in the same room. Okay, right. Thank you for clarifying that. The choosing of the colors thing, I have yellow as my Nachtah clause and green is my Katon clause and et cetera. I've had a system that works for my eyes and my brain for many years. So that's something I'm wrapping my brain around, because you're right. Some kids don't like blue. I give them a choice between, for this, do you want blue or purple or whatever? What do you want for your underline for Sof Pasuk? It's going to be yellow because it's still part of the, at Nachtah clause, but what do you want to underline it with? I give them the choice for that. So I have to revisualize that inside my head too. That's incredible. I hadn't ever thought of that point at all. So, at all. Excellent. And then one more question from me, and Debbie, go ahead. Debbie Gelber, go ahead. I'm going to unmute you.
Thanks. Yeah, the other thing I'm also reconsidering how I handle is the parents laning. Generally, if the parent brings it up, I ask them to think about themselves, and if being worried about landing on the day is going to take up so much of their brain that they won't enjoy being there for their child. And generally when parents do want to do it, I just give them a recording and I say, if you want to learn the trope, let's do it after the bar mitzvah. But I'm kind of rethinking that after what I heard today, and that it really is an opportunity when the parents are engaged, because I have to say, no one's ever come up to me after a bar mitzvah and said, okay, now I want to learn. So that's been interesting to hear and think about that.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you if you have your kids lead a prayer, like they're going to come in and do the Chatzi Kaddish, you know, for one of the services at your regular service. If they lead prayers in front of the congregation, one or two, just to get their feet wet. Do they do Friday night because they're doing similar melodies? At least they aren't. I know you have a conservative shul, but in my shul, they're leading the same melody for the Chatzi Kaddish, even if it's a Friday night melody. They're still leading it. So do you have the kids come up and do that to get them?
Yeah, we do it's not my choice, but it is the minhag hamakom. So they do the same Chatzi Kaddish no matter what time of day or night it is.
Okay.
And that's fine. You know, that's fine. They lead as much of the Friday night service as they are comfortable leading. Or they co-lead with me, or they barely lead, but they're with me and they do the Baruch Hu, and they lead Ve'ahavta or whatever. But they're ideally the Friday night service and the Shabbat morning service. We only do a Hecha Kedusha for the Amidah. So it's just the Avot, the Imahot, and the Kedusha. Excuse me, some children are capable of leading the Kedusha, some are not. Right. If they're only capable of leading some of it, then I do like a little, you know, like when you're loud, that's great. And when you're soft, I get a little louder. And between the two of us, we've just led the Kedusha. If Ledor Vador, you know, my teacher, Saul Zim's Ledor Vador is like, you know, mashed potatoes for the congregation. Right. So if they just sing Ledor Vador, I have considered that they are leading Ledor Vador. Let them learn the rest of the words later. I don't care. If they're smiling and singing Ledor Vador, I'm happy. So yes, the list is this long. It is so totally intimidating. It's awful. And that's why I don't give them that list until about 3 weeks before the bar bat mitzvah, where we've been working on that shopping list. Same stuff. It just looks like the thing from Michael's, and much less intimidating.
Right.
And they get to shop. And every single service, every single child's list is going to look different. I have an 11-year-old girl who's going to be 12 when her twin brothers are turning 13. All three will be B'nai Mitzvah on June 30th. She's leading most of the davening. She's a davener. She's a singer. They're hardly leading any of that. But one brother loves to lane. He's laning 4 aliyot. The other brother is not strong in either of those things. I asked the rabbi to have him, this young man, prepare a Debar Torah for Friday and for Saturday. Meet them, but they're all laning Torah. Even the one that has challenge, he's laning Torah. And they're all chanting a third of the Haftarah. But, you know, each one is different. Each one has different strengths. What the, you know, the ultimate is that, you know, I've had a parent that said, I don't want you out of your seat the entire time that my daughter is becoming bat mitzvah. I want her leading everything. Okay. Does she want to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Dealing with the parents is, yes, agreed.
So right from the get-go, they hear me. They hear my voice. They see my eyes. The other thing about the parent being in the room just saying is that when this child, who nobody thought was going to do bupkis because they are on the spectrum and whatever, and start surprising me and everybody else around them, that He learned his entire, Haftarah and all the brachot and read Torah beautifully, whatever. As we're going through the process, the parent who doesn't know anything about trope or anything else, I'm sending little things like, while the kid is like focused like this, I'm going like this.
Yeah. Excellent.
I'm
Debbie Gilbert, you missed that. You missed. Oh no, you didn't see it. You can see it.
I'm teaching the parent
Mhm.
how fabulous their child is.
Right. Right.
And believe me, I'm a crier. I used to cry at Bell Telephone commercials. I just myself. A kid does anything right in front of the parent, I'm crying. I'm using it. I'm crying. Because I feel it. I feel like I can't stand it. I'm so happy for them, so proud of them. And the parents like, texting, reading, looking at a magazine. Fine. Hello? Your child's amazing. Just saying.
Great.
Because they don't know what they don't know. They don't know that they don't understand what that child just accomplished. That's my job. My job is not just to tutor that kid.
Right. So you tutor all, you said there are 53, 54?
No, it's 35 this year.
Okay, and you're tutoring all of them. There's no outside tutor. There's no one else teaching them their anything. That's amazing. And they're in Hebrew school too, so they're in tefillah, like a mini tefillah or something.
I took over teaching tefillah because they weren't learning tefillah.
Right.
So we had a new education director. I said, I want some time with each of the kids, each of the grades. I want to go in. The rabbi had the 7th graders in the sanctuary. So I had gone through Vav this year. And I would have they're very small class for Gan Aleph Bet, so they would be together with me. And then separately, I had 3rd and 4th grade, separately 5th and 6th, so that we could talk about what does Birchot HaShachar, what are we saying here? Can we make up our own Birchot HaShachar? So that they also understand what we're doing. And, it's hard. They're still learning in a vacuum. If they're not coming to services, they're not going to remember at 9 o'clock in the morning when they don't really want to be there on Sunday what we did. And it's only once a week that I had them for tefillah because I also took over music. So the other day of the week that I saw them, that was for music.
No.
Excuse me, I just want to say thank you, Lois. I've learned a lot, but I need to run.
Okay, run. Thank you.
Bye, Sharon. See you in Cleveland, honey.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
And I send this email. That's a key element because it's my insurance policy. I learned to do that when I worked for Shari Tefillah in New York. Mm-hmm. And that head cantor read every email that I sent, and there were 15 me's.
Wow.
And he would comment to me, I like the way you did this. I don't know how he found the time.
Right.
But I took that requirement that he insisted on, and I took it with me anywhere I went after that, and it changed the culture because no parent could say, what do you mean Johnny isn't doing well? Hello, I've been in touch with you every week, baby, and I've called you on your not bringing Johnny for 2 weeks in a row, and I've called you on not sitting with Johnny when I told you that you don't have to know Hebrew to sit with him and show him that you value his practice time.
Could you send that letter? Would you send it to me and I will put it when I do this recording, when I post this recording? I think that letter would be extraordinarily valuable for us to take a look at, and we could maybe add our own spins to it. But that letter was really well done.
Thanks.
So.
Yeah. So, there's so much more to do. There's so many more changes to make before we lose them because they won't be interested. And it's such a beautiful way to live life with the guidance of Torah and with community when you understand what it can be. I used to be angry at my post B'nai Mitzvah students who weren't wearing tali tot. And then I realized I can't order them to wear tali tot when they come in, but I can whisper in their ear, would you do me a personal favor and put on a talit, please? And then every time I see them wear one, I can throw them a kiss.
Right.
It's got to be like that because the moms are not wearing tali tot.
Right.
So why would they do what they're not seeing? If I'm the only woman that's wearing a talit. There are very few women in my congregation. There are some, but there are very few that wear tali tot.
It's a generational thing too, I think.
Right. And I'm dealing with 3 generations.
Right.
But Torah is valued. There are a lot of adults who want to learn Torah. Many of them do not know trope. I'm still trying to get them into my office to learn how to do it. I'll give you a sound file. It's fine. You know, enjoy. It's wonderful. But you could also learn. And my vision, which I share with everybody, is I want a minion of Haftarah chanters. Adults. Learning how to do it.
Right. I
have 2 new ones this year.
Good.
Some people would say that's not a lot. How could you get excited about 2? Because it's a 5th of the way to 10.
Right.
So I think the bottom line is teach the parents.
Bottom line, teach the parents. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns, or other techniques that might be helpful in this discussion? We'd love to hear your voices as well. We're going to be wrapping up in just a few minutes.
Okay, I do have a question. What if they had struggling with the Hebrew and they would like to do some things in English?
How do I handle that?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, if I can work with them where they can learn the Hebrew, pronouncing the Hebrew and stuff, I really obviously prefer that. I've had children learn how to learn Torah, but they had to do it with transliteration because they have learning challenges. So they learn it via transliteration, and then we practice pointing to each word on the picture of the scroll, because I take a picture from the actual scroll. And really, if it's painful because for whatever reasons they really cannot read the Hebrew, cut my losses and go to transliteration. I want them to know how to sing Shalom Aleichem with a smile on their face.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone
I
else?
didn't used to approach it that way. Over time, changed.
Lois, what an opportunity to get to know you, because I've known you for, I don't know how many years we've known each other, since WCN, but the opportunity to see your passion and to see the things that have worked, but just to see your personality and how much you care is just such a joy for me personally to just, I feel like I've gotten to know you so much better in this last hour, and what a joy. So thank you so much. Anybody, any other questions or comments? Okay, I'm going to stop the recording, and this will be available on our Nosh and Knowledge YouTube channel, which we actually have, and also I'll post it on Facebook.